Pass the potatoes, her father said. And she passed them, to her ex-boyfriend, sitting 2 seats away from me. Not a single person blinked. Not her mom. Not her brother. Not her cousin who once told me Rena and Chase were meant to be. I watched her brush her fingers across his as she handed the bowl. Chase smiled. She smiled. I bit into dry turkey and wished I could dissolve into it. No one had told me Chase would be here. He's just a friend, she'd said 2 years ago when they reconnected. Just lunch. Then just coffee. Then just therapy talk. He helps me understand what I need. Apparently what she needed was to laugh at every one of his jokes and act like I was a lamp someone forgot to turn on. I kept my mouth shut. I always do. I'm the quiet one. Her family treats me like I'm her weird emotional support animal, tolerated, fed, ignored. I'm not charming like Chase. I don't tell stories with dramatic hand gestures or call her dad big guy. I just pay bills, fold laundry, say thank you. Dinner was halfway through when her cousin Mara raised her wine glass and said, "To the lessons we learned this year." Chase toasted. Her parents joined. Rena raised hers slowly, looked around, then said, loud enough to cut through the room, "Some mistakes teach you everything. Others, you just regret them forever." Chase chuckled. Then she looked at him. "You were never my mistake." I waited for her to add something. A laugh. Just kidding. A glance toward me. Nothing. So I did something I hadn't done in 2 years. I stood up, and I walked into the kitchen. Not to cry, not to scream, but to do something worse. Because her phone was there, unlocked. And when I saw the text thread, she forgot to close. An hour later, when she couldn't find her phone, her smile disappeared. The first thing I saw was a selfie, taken in our guest bathroom. Her hair wrapped in a towel, skin flushed from the shower steam, lips parted like she wanted someone to say something filthy. But it wasn't sent to me. It was already forwarded. To see. Chase. Of course. I opened the thread. And I don't know why I still hoped it was innocent. I don't know why part of me still thought, maybe they're talking about closure. Maybe this is old. But the timestamp said 6:19 p.m., 40 minutes before dinner. While I was out buying her dad's favorite beer. Her message, "Should I wear red? Or the black dress you said made you jealous?" His reply, "Red. You wore black on our first night. I want something new tonight." Our first night. I swear I couldn't breathe. Like the air in the room was made of glue. I scrolled up. Weeks of messages. Some flirty. Some vulgar. Some worse, emotional. Vulnerable. Raw. They weren't just messing around. They were rehearsing a relationship without me in it. "Are you still happy with him?" he asked 2 weeks ago. "No. But it's easier to stay than to explode everything," she replied. Then yesterday. "What if I didn't go home after dinner?" And his answer, "Then we wouldn't sleep." I dropped the phone. Literally, it fell on the kitchen counter and the screen cracked. I remember that detail because it was the only noise I made. The only proof I still existed in that house. No one came in. No one noticed I was gone. Except Rena. I walked back into the dining room like nothing happened. She looked up, smiled at me. Maybe because she didn't know I saw. Maybe because she thought I never would. I smiled back. And I waited. I waited through dessert. Through coffee. Through her aunt asking me if I was still doing that computer stuff. I said yes, even though I'd quit last month. She never noticed. And then, when Rena stood up to bring out the wine her parents were saving for a special night, I stood too. "I actually brought something for the group," I said. They all looked at me like I'd grown a second head. Rena froze. She was holding the wine opener. Chase looked nervous for the first time all night. "I want to make a toast," I said, lifting my glass. "To regrets." I've never liked the sound of my own voice, but in that moment, my words were the only things I could hear. The room had gone so still that even the clinking of forks stopped, like the table was holding its breath. I held my glass just high enough to see the reflection of Rena's frozen expression. "To regrets," I repeated, louder this time. "You know, it's funny how people talk about marriage like it's a journey. But sometimes it's more like a trap you fall into when you're young and hopeful and dumb enough to believe someone's lies." Rena's smile had vanished, replaced by the kind of tight-lipped stare people give when they're about to either cry or commit murder. But I didn't stop. I couldn't. "I made a vow," I said, pacing slowly around the table now, like a bitter best man giving a deranged speech. "I said I'd love, honor, and cherish her. I meant it. I did. Even when the love felt one-sided. Even when the honor disappeared. Even when the only thing left to cherish was the silence between us." Her mother looked visibly confused. Her father coughed. Chase tried to act casual, but I saw his knee bouncing under the table. That told me everything. I turned toward Rena then, and for the first time that night, I said her name. Rena, you've always had a way with words. Tonight you said marrying me was your biggest mistake. And honestly, I paused just long enough. I agree. The gasp from her aunt was loud. I saw her sister's jaw drop. Rena opened her mouth like she might try to salvage the moment, but I wasn't finished. So here's to mistakes, I said, raising my glass again. Some we can live with, some we grow from, and some. I reached into my jacket pocket and placed her cracked phone face up on the table, still lit up, the thread with Chase wide open. Some mistakes just expose the truth. You could feel the room crack like a pane of glass. Her dad stood up. Her mom covered her mouth. Rena didn't move. Her hand clenched around the wine opener like she was going to unscrew reality itself. Chase tried to stand but knocked his chair over, and the whole room shifted into chaos. Voices rising. Accusations flying. I just watched her. I didn't need to yell. I didn't need to cry. All I had to do was show the receipts. And when she finally found her voice again, it wasn't the voice of a wife. It was the voice of someone exposed. She didn't deny it. That was the most twisted part. She just stood there, one hand still holding the corkscrew, the other hovering above her phone like it might somehow erase everything I'd just revealed. Her mouth opened, closed. Then finally, "You went through my phone?" That's what she led with. Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "Let me explain." Not even the usual gaslight special. It's not what it looks like. Just a flat accusation, like I'd violated her. Like I was the monster in the story. I laughed. I couldn't help it. It came out bitter and small, like a dying car engine. "That's your angle?" I asked, looking around the room. "That's what you're going with?" Her dad looked ready to explode. Her mom was still frozen, blinking like someone had just unplugged her brain. And Chase, well, Chase was halfway to the front door. Coward. Typical. "I can't believe you would do this here," Rena snapped. Her voice was shaking now, but not from guilt, from rage. "In front of my family? Are you that pathetic?" I should have stayed calm. I should have taken the high road. But something in me cracked, and out came years of swallowed pain. Pathetic? Rena, I've been sleeping beside someone who emotionally left this marriage 2 years ago. I've been begging for scraps of attention from a woman who saved her best smiles for someone else. And you call me pathetic? My voice broke. I didn't care. Let them see. Let them all see what she'd turned me into. She stormed out of the dining room like she expected someone to follow. No one did. Not even her mom. I stayed. I stood there in the wreckage, surrounded by people who'd always thought I was too soft for her, too boring, too nice. Maybe they were right. But nice didn't cheat. Boring didn't sneak around. And soft? Soft had finally snapped. Her dad finally spoke. Is it real?" he asked, nodding toward the phone. I handed it to him. Let him see the red dress conversation. Let him scroll. Let them all witness the woman they'd raised. And for once, I wasn't the one being judged. I watched the truth spread across his face like oil across water. Slow, heavy, irreversible. He didn't yell. He just sat down and muttered, "I thought you were happy." "So did I, sir." "So did I?" An hour later, Rena's car was gone from the driveway. And her smile, that smug, charming, party host grin she wore so proudly when she made her little mistake, comment, it was gone too. She didn't come home that night. I waited, even though I told myself not to. I sat on the edge of the bed in the dark like some ghost in his own house, still wearing the same wrinkled button-down from dinner, phone in hand, refreshing every few minutes just to see if she'd text something, anything. Nothing. The last message I'd sent her was 2 words. "You're unbelievable." She hadn't even read it. At 2:37 a.m., I finally dragged myself downstairs and tried to sleep on the couch, but every creak of the floorboards sounded like her coming back. She didn't. The silence was deafening, but I'd take silence over more lies. The next morning, her side of the closet looked emptier. Not completely cleared out, just thinned, selectively, like she'd already packed in advance. Her favorite coat, her overnight bag, her backup charger, all missing. And then I knew. This wasn't spontaneous. This had been in motion for weeks, maybe months. I was never supposed to find the messages. I was never supposed to confront her in front of everyone. That dinner? That smug little performance with her ex? It was a final test. her way of seeing just how spineless I really was. And when I didn't take the bait, when I actually stood up and showed them all, she pivoted. By noon, I got an email from our bank. Suspicious account activity. I clicked through, heart pounding. She tried to move $4,800 out of our joint account into a personal one I didn't know she had. Thankfully, the transfer flagged for verification and didn't go through. I froze. Not because of the money. I could live without the money, but because of what it confirmed. This wasn't just cheating. This wasn't just emotional betrayal. This was premeditated exit strategy. She wasn't planning to confess. She was planning to vanish, probably after securing whatever she thought she deserved. That's when I checked our safe. My passport was missing. The emergency cash envelope, empty. And taped to the inside of the safe door, like some twisted joke, was a note in her handwriting that said, "This isn't revenge. It's relief." I just sat there on the floor, staring at that sentence. Relief. Like I was a burden she was finally putting down. Like everything I did. The bills I paid. The dinners I cooked. The boring but loyal husband I'd tried to be, was dead weight to her. I wasn't a partner. I was a placeholder. A thing she could walk away from like it never meant anything. But the thing about relief is, it works both ways. And for the first time in 5 years, I stopped trying to win her back. I wasn't looking for more. I swear I wasn't. I just wanted answers, something to help me make sense of what I was even mourning. Was it the woman I married, or just the version of her I thought I knew? So I started with her laptop. She usually kept it in the kitchen drawer, buried under old coupons and unpaid parking tickets. It wasn't password protected. She once said she had nothing to hide. That was a lie too. The second I opened her email, it was like pulling a thread that unraveled everything we'd built. There was a folder, titled Legal, and inside were drafts, multiple, of separation agreements. Not filed, not signed. Just prepared. Sitting there. Dated as far back as last September. I was sick. But what stopped me cold, what genuinely knocked the breath from my lungs, was a message thread with someone I hadn't expected. Avery. My niece. My goddaughter. She's 19. Sweet. Naive. Always thought the world was fair. She looked up to Rena. Always said she wanted a marriage like ours. And now there she was, in my wife's inbox. Multiple messages. The first one innocent, just about visiting. The next? A thank you for letting her crash for a night after a fight with her mom. Then came this one. Thank you for always being there for me. You understand things no one else does. And Rena's reply. That's what real love feels like. You'll learn not to settle like I did. I felt cold. Not angry. Not betrayed. Just cold. Like my skin didn't fit anymore. I didn't want to believe it. I couldn't. But I kept reading. Because I had to. There were no explicit details. Nothing that crossed a legal line, at least not in writing. But there were too many messages that hinted at something unspoken, and one that absolutely shattered me. I wish I could go back and choose differently. Avery had written that. To my wife. 3 weeks ago. I don't know what happened. I don't know how far it went. I don't even know if I want to. But I know this. Rena didn't just destroy our marriage. She infected everything around it. She blurred the lines between betrayal and manipulation until I didn't know who to protect and who to confront. Was she grooming trust? Was she venting her venom into the one young person who still believed she was good? I called Avery. She didn't pick up. I didn't leave a message. I just sat on the kitchen floor again, back against the cabinets, laptop on the tile, and I cried like a man who wasn't just losing his wife. He was losing the last few pieces of his world that still felt safe. That's when the knock came at the door. It wasn't Rena. It was someone she never expected to show up on my side. I didn't even stand up when the knock came. I just sat there, back still pressed to the cabinet, eyes raw, body hollow, and listened to it echo again, soft, but persistent. 3 knocks. A pause. Then one more. Whoever it was, they weren't leaving. I finally forced myself up, dragged my legs to the door, and opened it without checking. I half expected police. Or Rena, with some manipulative apology. Or worse, Chase. Ready to gloat. But it was none of them. It was Avery. She looked wrecked. Hair messy. Hoodie zipped up to her chin. Eyes rimmed red. No makeup. No smile. Not even a hello. Just stood there on my porch like someone who had come to confess to a priest, not visit her uncle. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. I stepped aside, let her in, and she walked straight past me like she already knew where the truth had been hiding. I didn't sleep with her, she said, before I even asked. Her voice cracked immediately. God, I swear I didn't. I never would. She made it feel like I was the only one who really saw her. I was stupid. I'm so stupid. She sank into the couch and covered her face. I stood there, arms limp, trying to process what was happening. She told me things, Avery mumbled. Stuff I shouldn't have known. About you. About how sad she was. How alone she felt. And how she stayed because she felt guilty, not because she loved you. I sat down across from her. I didn't cry. I just listened. My throat was already too tight to speak. She twisted things, she went on, shaking her head. At first I thought she was just venting. But then she started messaging me late at night, asking how I was. Telling me I reminded her of how she used to be before she settled. And one night, I was vulnerable. I told her I hated my life, that I didn't feel safe at home. And she said I should come live with you too, that you wouldn't mind, that you didn't really see her anymore anyway. My stomach turned. She never touched me, Avery said quickly, but she got in my head, and I think she wanted me to say something, to want her back. It's like she was trying to make me become the one who crossed the line so she wouldn't have to be the bad guy. I finally found my voice. Why are you telling me this now? She looked up at me with eyes full of shame I don't think she even deserved. Because she called me this morning, she said. She said she was going away for a while. With Chase. She said I shouldn't mention anything to you. That you'd be fine. That you'd figure it out eventually. That's when I stood. Something in me ignited. Not rage. Not revenge. But this searing, silent clarity. Rena hadn't just betrayed me. She'd tried to rewrite herself into someone else entirely. And she was willing to use a 19-year-old girl's trust to do it. She wanted me broken. She was about to find out what I'd been building in the silence. I didn't reply to Rena's last message. I didn't call. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I just watched Avery fall asleep on my couch, wrapped in the same blanket Rena used to curl up in on Sundays, back when things were still soft between us. And in the quiet of that early morning, I finally made a decision, not out of pain, not even out of revenge, but out of something I hadn't felt in years, self-respect. The next day, I went to the bank and froze the joint account. I met with a lawyer and told him everything, not just about the affair, but about the emotional manipulation, the financial trail, the documents she drafted behind my back. He didn't flinch. He just nodded and said, "Good. You're finally ready." I changed the locks. I called her work and told them to forward her mail to A.P.O. box. I sent one final message, not to her, but to Chase. "She's your storm now. Good luck." Days passed. Then a week. No more texts. No attempts to come back. Maybe she thought I'd break down. Maybe she hoped I'd chase her one last time. But I didn't. I rebuilt slowly. I started jogging again. Cleaned out the guest room. Took Avery to therapy. I started cooking for myself, not out of duty, but out of pleasure. I even opened the blinds again. Let the light back in. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like a ghost haunting my own life. Then one morning, she showed up. Rena, unannounced. No suitcase. No makeup. Just stood at the threshold with that half-apology face she wore when she was about to lie, but hadn't decided which one yet. She said, "You haven't called." I said, "I know." She glanced behind me, probably expecting the old version of me, the one who'd offer tea, ask what happened, try to fix the unfixable. But that man wasn't home anymore. "I thought you'd still be waiting," she whispered. I stepped aside just enough for her to see inside. No photos of us on the wall. No trace of her in the hallway. Nothing left to anchor her here. I said. But I'm not anymore. She looked down. For the first time since all this began, I saw a real emotion on her face. Not anger. Not defiance. Just loss. "Take care, Rena." And I closed the door. I didn't slam it. I didn't lock it. I just closed it. Behind me, Avery was in the kitchen, laughing softly at something on her phone, the scent of fresh coffee filling the space. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like someone's mistake. I felt free.